It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain. We here to fix that. You want the news on them new stocks? This where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to profit.
And we are live with Nick Black in 3, 2.
We're live with both of us. It's not like you're the AI and I'm the real one.
You don't know that.
Am I?
Exactly. You don't know that. Nobody knows that.
So
at this point, I'm beginning to wonder if we're ever going to know again what's AI and what's not. What's been created by AI, what's acting as AI.
It's not even deep fakes anymore. I am going to do this. Let me just put an asterisk. Digital heavyweights. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell you guys a trick that I've figured out with the help of some other people on how to, there's AI recognition software. You know that there's, like, when you do copywriting or you submit a document, there's AI recognition software that'll ping it for being AI. Have you seen that, Brandon?
No. Is it accurate?
It's pretty accurate. And it'll say what percentage it's AI. Well, I've figured out a prompt that changes the complexity of the AI's output. So, for instance, if you're using GPT, like Chat GPT, which is based on GPT 3.5, and if any of this stuff sounds crazy, like if you're like, what is he talking about? You're on the effing shelf and you're probably going to get replaced. Like if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about right now, your days as an employee, if you're an employee, your days are numbered because you're going to be relegated to the sidelines. You're going to be collecting a check, and it probably won't be a good check because it's going to be a UBI check. You can be out of a job. But anyway, never mind what I'm saying. But there's AI software that basically recognizes when AI has written something. Well, that makes sense, right? Like if a kid is submitting an essay in school, probably don't want that AI wrote it. Or at least that's what teachers are thinking right now. And too, like if you're a copywriter, your boss probably doesn't want you just using AI, although he should, or she or they should, because your output would probably be better quality content. Because, the whole depth of human knowledge and all that, which you don't have and AI does. But I figured out some prompts that you can use, basically a copy and paste paragraph that will expand the perplexity of the output of the AI. So, for instance, if you write an article, you say, hey, write me a 5-paragraph essay on, why I should be a digital heavyweight or whatever. Okay, great. Blah, 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 blah. And then AI scanners will go, this is written by AI. But then you can use this to change the way it's written to where it's so much more human that it's not recognizable to AI content scanners, even though it's written by AI. So it at least puts you a little bit ahead of the game, and at least for the next couple of months until AI solves this, we'll be under the radar. Anyway, cool, right? Brandon, I want to show people, for those of you that have seen our logo, we've been kind of messing around and having fun. This took, Brandon, do you want to guess how many seconds this took for me to generate?
4. How many iterations, though, for real?
First one.
This was the first iteration. It popped up.
Yeah.
That's solid.
That's it. So it took, it's like 30 to 60 seconds on Mid-Journey if you're messing around with Mid-Journey. And so the reason you should be playing with all these things, like Brandon, why are you playing around with all these AI functions like AI art and AI like writing softwares? Like, why are you messing around with these things?
I'll tell you, number one reason. So the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now on Twitter and everywhere else, people are asking for prompts. The people that are learning how to prompt these things correctly are going to be the people that are advancing in AI, and the only way to learn them is by doing it. So people are saying that better prompts are going to get better respect and better results. And so if you learn how to prompt these things, you're good to go.
So would you say, so we talked about this a while ago, that the ability to ask precise questions. Mm-hmm. Well, prompting is a way, think of it as the new kind of SEO. Instead of search engine optimization, You need to be a question optimization specialist or prompt engineering, right? You need to be an expert at prompt engineering, because now your success is going to be measured by what you can do a few days or a few weeks before your competitors. So we are going to start adding in a lot of the AI prompt engineering education into digital heavyweights, because I mean, we digital, bro. So that's coming, and we've been doing that, and it's very interesting. And if you're a heavyweight, and again, this isn't an ad for heavyweights, but for those of you that are, you know that we do a lot of AI investing, and especially for the new heavyweights, you know that it's a lot of artificial intelligence information and AI investing as we go to AGI. That said, you need to understand how to use it. It's not just enough to invest in it and be like, I hope we win. You need to understand the technology, and that's going to shape the way you invest in all these markets. It's also going to, it should be a huge shot across the bow to all you squiggly line traders. Your days are numbered, man. What are you thinking? Do you think you can compete with the robots? You're insane. So, man, I don't know. All right, let's get on past that. Brandon, there's something going on tomorrow in the macro markets. I guess people are something to do with the Fed, what's that about? Do you know anything about that? Some rate adjustment, rate hike. People are talking about it like it means something. Does that make sense?
I mean, honest, because we're here, I know about it. But if I was just in crypto, yeah.
So I want to take everyone down a little journey. Has nothing to do with AI. Has nothing to do with digital. Nothing. Does anyone in the chat know, really quickly? Don't look it up. You should know this if you don't know this. Do you know why 2% is like the worldwide agreed upon interest rate target by central banks and the Fed? And I caveat that by saying and the Fed, because the Fed is not a central bank. They don't deal in money. You have to deal in money to be a central bank. The Fed is an organization of banks that make recommendations. So 2%, as you guys know. Brandon, do you know this? This might even elude you. Do you know why 2% is the agreed upon number?
Is that because they have to hold that much in reserves?
Grateful Trader kind of has it right. But it was the New Zealand central bank. And it was a completely whimsical figure. It was a guess. It was December 14th, I think, on a Sunday night, 1990. So we're going back to Wellington, New Zealand, and I got this little blurb. I just thought it was so funny. This is, when you think that these things are technical, when you think that the Federal Reserve and that all these mathematicians and all this, that there's a lot of quantitative analysis and very specific number theory, it's all bull smoke. It's all crap. Wellington, New Zealand, more than 30 years ago, some relatively useful central bank and treasury economists in New Zealand were grappling with how to bring 2 decades of double-digit inflation under control in an economy less than 1% the size of the U.S. Okay, so they were grappling with this before anyone else was. Remember, this whole idea of easing, quantitative easing, tightening, all this is a very new phenomenon, a new nonsensical experiment. And it's still an experiment because it's never produced results. I think they said in $600 billion worth of easing efforts by the United States. Do you know how many basis points return they got on that? $600 billion. It produced 15 basis points. So if you can cut a penny into 7 pieces, it was one of those 7 pieces of a penny of return on $600 billion worth of quantitative easing. So anyway, you start to realize that there's not really anything quantitative about any of this stuff. So we're back to New Zealand. So they're sitting there talking. They're like, man, we got inflation. This sucks. The 70s and 80s. So they asked, what if we just told everyone that the rate should be lower, say 2%, and then aim for that? And this is a direct quote. It was a bit of a shock to everyone, I think, said Roger Douglas, the Labour Party finance minister at the time, who worked with the Treasury and Reserve Bank of New Zealand. to pioneer the policy. I just announced it was going to be 2%, and it sort of stuck. This is a quote. And like that, the inflation target was born, and inflation targeting was born around the world. Since its arrival in the 1990s, the 2% inflation target phenomenon has sailed from New Zealand, Wellington, around the globe to become the accepted norm among central banks with little or no math to back that. And that's it. Banks large and small now use 2% for grounding public expectations for what inflation ought to be. And their excuse is, we don't want to go below 2% because that could lead to deflation. So we want 2%. Now I'm going to ask you another question in the chat for all of you home gamers. How many people do we have in the chat today? I can never see.
We got 1801.
Okay, 1,800 of you. If you have fingers, I want to see an answer. Okay? If you have 2% agreed upon inflation, and let's just say it's 2. We all know that's not the case, but let's just say actual 2. And we're thinking of monetary inflation, meaning more currency units, which is not what we had during COVID, but more currency units. Okay? So inflation. How long does it take to cut your money, your buying power in half? At 2% inflation that everyone agrees on because of whimsy. How many years before your money is cut in half? Let's see it. I'm going to tell you the right answer as soon as we get 1,800 responses. We're never going to get 1,800 responses. Nancy,
who's in charge of counting those, though? Is that me? Is that me? 1, 2.
Yep. I want you to count to 1,800.
I'll have AI do it.
Years. G-force math, bro. 2 times 100 can't equal. That'd be 200. That'd cut your money into like 3 cents. Come on. Some of you have gotten it. I've seen a few of you. So here's what it is. Brandon, what's your guess? And then I'm going to give everyone the answer. Get your answers in.
It's got to be 10. I'm going to say 10. I could have done the math, but I have just been sitting here.
It's 20 years.
20.
It's 20 years.
Makes more sense.
At the agreed upon, remember, the agreed upon and completely whimsical 2% inflation targeting. And we know it's not that. It's 20 years and your money is cut in half. So I want you guys to think, and gals and pronouns undisclosed. If you have $100,000 in your bank account, in 20 years, how much buying power do you have? And that's assuming everything stays at 2%. Brandon, you want to take a stab at it? You have $100K. You know it gets cut in half in 20 years.
$50K.
So how much buying power do you have?
Half.
Yes. 50,000. That's right. Half. Good. You're working with me here. It's not a trick question. So what do you think happens when you go to, say, 4%? Which the government is kind of targeting now.
Then you only got way less.
No, it's way
compoundingly
less.
less.
It doesn't just
5
go
years.
To half. It goes
right. Wait, no, it's not 5.
It's 5 to 7, depending on how you get to that 4%.
Okay, there you go.
So your 100. So now here's why I say this. So I want you to think about that. Are you preparing your personal portfolio? Is your wealth management strategy factoring in that because of government whimsy and nonsense, and just the idea of operating governments and printing more currency is just a normal, they're going to kick the debt ceiling to 34 trillion from the 31 trillion. Like, think about those numbers. Okay, we'll push it another 3 trillion. 3 trillion. So I want you to think about this. Are you factoring this into the way you invest? Are you realizing that no one here is ever going to retire? Brandon, you realize that, right? There ain't no retirement. That's out.
I've never planned on it, Nick, ever.
You can't take your foot off the pedal. And also, you need to make bigger hits now because we're going into a world of universal basic income. This should be incredibly obvious, absurdly obvious. If you don't see this, you are blind as a bat. And even if you're blind, you probably see this. We are going into a world where we're going to go into some weird people on the sidelines no longer working. universal basic income, stipend, welfare, whatever you want to call it. They'll rename it so it doesn't sound sketch. People are going to be getting sidelined. And then what is your investment strategy when everybody's just staring, living the life of abundance or whatever that looks like? Because it sounds like a life of welfare. There may be a point where you can't get ahead, so you need to get multiples now. So I don't care if you're a squiggly line trader, but you better do some freaking math. And being satisfied with 2%, 7%, 9% on a trade ain't going to cut it. You need to do multiples of your portfolio, multiples, over the next, 3, if we have 3 years. I don't know if we do. But you better be doing multiples. You got 36 months to make all the money you might ever really make before we go into some weird dystopian GD AI scenario where everybody's getting some kind of stipend. And then the classes, the socioeconomic classes have been formed and you're not getting out. Only the random person is going to get out. Because once those classes are laid out, how can you get out? You're competing with the robots that are going to be managing everyone's money anyway. I don't know, man. I think you better factor this in. So if your investment strategy is, I made some $20 here and $30, you're wrong. You need to think bigger. You need to think in bigger terms, in grander scale. And you better be in the markets where you can get that, which is the crypto market. If there was another one, then I would be doing that. There's not another one. If you think you're going to do it in equities, you're not, because you're going to be following the rest of the market. You're going to be indexing in. All you're going to be doing is treading water with the other. Now, granted, most of the world's not invested in equities markets, so you'll be doing better than a lot of people, but not much better, because if you're indexing in to a fully foreign market, where's the potential? Oh, we're going to return 12% year on year. Good luck, bro. I don't know, man. And also, well, let's not get into the math of how some kind of universal basic income would work. But where do you think they're going to be getting, other than the AI and all the abundance created, where do you think the extra is coming from to finance these projects? It's not from the lower and the middle class. It's going to be from the richies. So, man, I hope you're looking at the future the way it's starting to form and you don't have your head in the sand. You better have a good strategy. You better be knocking multiples, hundreds of percent. And if you're not in a market that can do that, you are wrong. You're wrong, sailor. All right. Brandon, let's take a quick look at markets. There was a little bit of uneasiness over some hawkish statements, or intuitive statements that were made by the Fed. Why? I mean, here's the deal. People still believe in the nonsense of the Fed. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. They still believe in it. And if they believe in it, you got to think, okay, what would dummies do? So what is Powell's thinking? Okay, 25 basis points is, they've already said they're going to try to push up to 4.75 or 5%. Okay, great. So 25 basis points is very likely coming. It doesn't matter what the data shows. It doesn't matter how poor of a decision that is. It doesn't matter how behind the ball they are. It doesn't matter. They're going to do 25 basis points because Powell is angry. He's a little bit hurt that everyone is ignoring him, that the markets are just completely calling them out as dummies, which they have done, right? Why do we have a massively inverted yield curve? Because the whole market is calling him a dummy. It's calling the Fed dummies, and it's calling people that believe in the Fed dummies. I mean, this is not my opinion. This is the yield curve calling them dummies. Okay, great. So what he is angry-ish about is, I've said I'm raising rates. How come the market's going up? And like, well, because we think you're a dummy and we think you're going to have to pause and you're going to have to go the other way like you did in 2018 and 19. So he's like, well, not this time. Blah, blah, blah. This is the same guy that got on 60 Minutes and lied through his teeth and said that, during COVID, we were going to have the greatest liquidity event since Noah's flood, which is a lie because not $1 came out of the Fed, not one actual dollar. Remember, bank reserves are not real money. So That being said, there was this belief that it doesn't matter. Basically, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. That kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter what the data is. We're going to raise and raise and raise. And some other statements came out of some former Fed reps that said, hey, listen, Powell's not going to he's not going to admit to being blind until they see 6 months of data. And what they're going to do is then they will carefully craft some press releases taking credit for inflation coming down, like they did it, which good for them. Take credit where you can after the fact. It's the same thing as like saying taking credit for the sun going down. I did that. Did you? Did you, Jerome? Did you make the sun set like it was going to do anyway? Because it does it every day. You did it. Got it. So anyway, some of that bled into the crypto space yesterday. You saw a little sell-off. You saw Bitcoin people like, but these are thinly traded markets. They are correlated to the macro markets because you do have some institutional money, insti money in there banging around in Bitcoin specifically. And when Bitcoin moves, a lot of the other assets move. However, what we've started to see is that it looks like the crypto space has found a way to front run traditional markets. It goes down sooner, it comes up faster. And so you're seeing a really weird thing where through luck or genius or whimsy, the digital asset space as it's forming is front running the macro markets. Is it random? Maybe. Is it that the whole crypto space is full of geniuses? Well, that is certainly not the reason. But could it be that in this tiny illiquid market, most of the people that were most of the gambly D-bags, they got nuked out of the market in the last 14 months. And what you're left with is people that just say, I'm not selling. I'm not willing to sell. I believe in these assets. You have a much more convicted market. Brandon, what do you think? Do you think this is a market of conviction now as opposed to like the whimsy of late 2021?
It's definitely changed only because the whole environment's changed. We learned a lot over the last little bit, and the people that are staying in now are staying in this for a long haul, which is why I think market caps are going to be a lot higher this time than they were last time, meaning there's definitely more money to be made.
Yeah, I think, I mean, especially like, as we zoom down here, and again, there's a lot of quality stuff, and we go into this really deep, but and I have a little note out on Render for you digital heavyweights. You should have seen that. But I mean, if you're looking at this space, you're going, okay, over the last 90 days, what have I knocked? The percent you've done real well. And you got to think, wait a minute, but that's when we're in the throes of all this macro chaos. How is that possible? And it's possible because we're at the point now where people are looking towards the future and they are thinking in terms of AI and protocols and good, like the structure of what the future is going to look like, the scaffolding of the future of e-commerce and derivatives and financial products and government stable assets, things like that. And if you buy, again, to reduce it back to, if you bought the roads and the land in front of the roads, the path of, if you bought in the path of progress and progress meets you and builds on top of your property, you get paid and you get paid fat. And so I think that's what we're seeing. We're now seeing a market, the crypto as it's forming, is a much more forward-thinking, more infinite goal-minded market rather than the finite flip my Shiba Inu D-bag coin today for, or Safe Moon and all those idiots. I watched a guy flush most of his entire crypto portfolio who could not afford to do this. In the run-up in 2021, he was up over 100,000 in these BS tokens. And I told him, I nearly begged him at his birthday party, do not leave your money in these tokens. He's like, yeah, we're going to get a couple more decimals. I'm like, stop, because what you're saying doesn't make any sense. It would have the market cap higher than Bitcoin. Yeah, because really, you and the guys on Reddit, huh? And you want to know how that worked out? It's all gone. He has nothing. He might have like $5,000. That was it. What could have been a life-changing portfolio is all gone. It's not even a down payment on a crappy electric vehicle. So, man, be careful where you're investing and where your mindset is. And if you wake up in the morning as a gambler or you wake up as an investor, those are two different things. All right, Brandon, why don't we do some
That
T's and
story
A's?
makes me so sad. Oh
Makes
my
me
gosh,
sad
I
too.
about cried.
I just saw him
This-
Saturday night, and he didn't even want to make eye contact with me. He just
No!
hey,
No, it makes me sad. So,
vomit.
what happens to Bitcoin when the governments make their own currency?
Well, I think that's good. It's positive for Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin's not competing with stable assets. It's not like Bitcoin or dollars. Right now, in your balance sheet, you might say, I want to have some of my currency units held in Bitcoin, this store of value that I think will appreciate over the long term against, a variety of effects. But it would be like comparable to gold. It's not like gold or dollars. You don't go spend gold. You save gold. You spend dollars. Bad money gets spent. Good money sits on the sidelines. So I think it would only be accretive, because if everybody's dealing in stable coins and everybody's got digital wallets, sure is a lot easier to get you some Bitcoin. All right, next.
This one is from Jade Bennett. If Swiss banks regulate crypto, would it be sound advice to only keep crypto on my ledger?
Well, banks won't. Swiss banks, I mean, they don't regulate the whole world. They barely regulate chocolate, right? Like, so who cares if some nascent market? I mean, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. So what? Okay, there's all sorts of governments are going to have all sorts of crypto regulation, but soon we're not going to. Oh, my mic just wanted to roll on me. You're not going to say crypto anymore. In a few years, it'll just be finance again. Digital assets will be underneath all of finance. They're going to absorb everything, data, every marketplace, every transaction, every repo transaction, every currency swap on earth, period, full stop. All of it. They'll be running on top of crypto rails because it's cheaper and it's more efficient and it's an easier, even if they're permission systems, it's still easier and better. So the whole world will run on crypto, and then you won't say crypto anymore. It'll just, like, you don't say digital, but all money's digital, right? At your bank, they're not moving dollar bills around and mailing them to other banks and trucking them around. This is balance sheet swaps. Money's already digital. It's just that it's a sketchy ledger versus a consistent ledger, which is what digital assets have to offer. So no difference in my opinion. Probably good. Probably a good thing. Now, if you want to keep stuff on your ledger, that's smart, because it's like a Swiss bank account, and that's safer. But remember, as you take those extra steps, you have to be very aware of, protecting your privacy, protecting your passphrase and keywords from people that are trying to steal, and everyone is trying to steal. Bam.
I mean, that checks out, obviously.
Next one.
So XRP, this is the last question here. XRP about to settle the government suit. If so, what exchange would you recommend buying XRP on?
I wouldn't. I don't think it's a good investment. I would only, if you're going to do it, it's a trade. It's a trade between now and the settlement, thinking that the community, which is unfortunately full of mostly idiots, is going to be like, woo woo, we won, even though they didn't win. They're admitting basically to fraud, and that's what a settlement is, so that they don't go to jail. But they're going to admit that, and everybody's going to, yeah, this is sweet. And then there's going to be a relief rally. And then the reality sets in, oh, wait, there's nothing that XRP offers that's any different than every other protocol and every other stablecoin. You do not need XRP, and you do not need XLM. They do nothing unique. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe in 2017, but not now. There's nothing magic about it. Ooh, a bridge currency. So what? Every single platform is a bridge currency. Every protocol. Every time you go and do a swap with Ethereum asset, what did you use? Oh, Ethereum. Okay, great. When did you use XRP? You didn't, because you don't need it. So you don't need XRP. So I would just, Shark, I would stop looking at XRP and XLM and those bridge assets. It's just old technology with not a lot of value, in my opinion. But if you want to trade it, then you would get it now, like on Bitrue, Bitrue. That's an exchange you could get an account over. You could get it there, and you could trade just for the. It's just a trade. It's a short-term trade for the relief rally, and I think that's about it. Okay, we'll see you in the digital heavyweights tomorrow. We'll do a lot of AI training as well as our cognitive bias. Our game theory training, day 4 game theory. Okay. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Don't do anything that my poor insolvent drunk strung out on meth grandmother or Brandon, who's not Ryan, who's not Elizabeth, who's not Eric, who's not E-Meg, who's not Brandon, who's not Nancy Pelosi, wouldn't do.
Whatever. So close. Oh, so close.
And on that note,
for some, it may have done it.
we, Brandon and I, must bid you a fond pew pew. Pew pew.